The last risk factor that I want to talk about is with regards to sites like Airbnb and VRBO and these, home sharing types of sites that are taking rooms away from hotels, or that's the narrative that's out there, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk about the risk of things like Airbnb, and how does that affect the valuation and like why if people should even get into hotels versus going that other route in terms of providing lodging for
Sure.
people who are coming to a city?
So I'll start off by saying that the home sharing economy it's a slightly different consumer. Some people tell you it's completely different. I understand why they would say that, but it's a slightly different consumer, and it's market specific, right? So I know people who are like, well, I stay in home sharing all the time, and I won't do a hotel. It's so much cheaper. And there's somebody like me that's just like, nope, I'm not doing it. Like, because if I have an issue, I need to know I can complain to somebody who cares, because I've heard some other stories, and we've all read I have actually had a family member checked into a home sharing, location, and it was basically like an apartment building that didn't have the doorknobs on there, still paying the hallways. And I know some others they did in another city, and it was very lavish. But as far as the impact on the lodging industry, it depends on the location. So if you're talking about buying a whole hotel in Manhattan, first of all, if you have that type of capital, I want to be your new best friend, and I want to sell you a lot of hotels. But secondly, in Manhattan, they did a research. I forgot what university it was, in conjunction with American Hotel Lodging Association, and I think they found a 1% delta. Now, I'm not saying that that's insignificant. Some people may say it's statistically insignificant, but you're talking about New York. New York just has so many people, so many condos, so many apartment buildings that could be an issue. Is it going to be a huge issue? I don't foresee it. I mean, I think it's kind of good for, on one hand, for the local economy, because that means that there's more tourists there. The lodging industry, we just want them to compete fairly. If you want to get into the lodging space, and I have to carry all this insurance and life safety, and I have to have sprinklers in my building, and I have to provide all of these different services, you should too, from a life safety standpoint, and you should also pay the same share of the taxes and convention centers and assessments and all that type of stuff, right? Because you are contributing to tourism. If you're in a South Beach, Miami, it's an impact, right? I've sold hotels in a lot of secondary and tertiary markets. Is it an impact in Winona, Mississippi? Nah. Is it an impact in Selma, Alabama? Nah. Right? Is it an impact in even a strong market like Pittsburgh? Like, probably not. Downtown Chicago, it may be a little bit of a thing. So people have to really sit back and think about that. And you have to also remember there's the majority of the people who stay in hotels may not be like the person who's trying to necessarily buy a hotel, right? Because if you're in a leisure market, right, so like a South Beach or something like that, or one of these coastal communities, yeah, that could absolutely be a thing for you, because you're dealing with leisure guests. They're looking for a different experience. A business traveler like myself, like yourself, like you're looking for like kind of something standard. You're looking for your bed and your complimentary breakfast in the morning and your coffee, and you're going to be on about your day. And that's usually what people look for. And then there's also the points associated with that and all those type of things. So that's why a lot of people say that they're different consumers. But I think that, going back to my original statement and the question you said, like, why should we invest in home sharing? How many jobs are you creating? If you own a Comfort Inn and Suites, how many jobs are you creating? That is the answer to that question. Because that Comfort Inn and Suites has to have a general manager. There are guest room attendants that clean that room. There's going to be an engineer that you're paying for building maintenance. There's going to be front desk agents. There's going to be the person who helps put together the breakfast, right? All of these different roles. And then you're able to say, look at my payroll tax county, right? And when you start complaining about things and you need things done, you're an economic engine, right? You own a business that creates jobs, that generates payroll tax and real estate taxes and all these other type of things. If you're renting out your auntie's basement or at a condo, like, not so much. You can't, you try to call your alderman and lean on them with that. Well, I rent out 17 apartments on whatever site, basement.com is, well, okay, well, thanks. You know, a big thing is, again, going back to jobs and justice, and we're talking about economic empowerment. Those are the conversations that you want to be able to have with your elected officials, right? This is the impact that I'm creating. Like, and it's tied into, again, 8 million jobs that lodging industry is creating. That's significant. That's a part of the GDP. Like, we can't dispute that. So that's why that's why I think that I would recommend, us looking into the, hotel investments, just because of that economic power that and clout that you create. Like, let's be honest. We want to be able to say that when something happens or something's not right, well, we're not seeing people getting respected just off of GP of their humanity, right? So, and we keep threatening boycotts and all these different things, but what if you owned it, right? What if your dollar's still circulating? What if you're creating jobs, and it's not the conversation of give us this, is, well, let me create it, right? And be the change that you want to see.
Love it. I think that's excellent advice and excellent perspective in regards to just the value of hotels, because it's not just an economic play in terms of your personal economics, right? You're talking about community economics in terms of job creation for one, and then also just clouding the community. If you want to see things change, it's much more difficult to do so if you own even 20 or 30 units that are Airbnbs versus owning a 40 or 50 unit hotel. Right. So, yeah. So my last question for the day is, what's your, I guess, best piece of advice for people who want to get in the industry? Like, what's the key principle that you have learned through working as a hotel broker in the hospitality space?
The biggest thing is do your due diligence, do your homework, take time to educate yourself. That invest in yourself, you'll win every time. I mean, and that's whatever your passion is, whether it's the lodging investment sector or not. But hotel investments are unique. As I said, it's an operating business that sits on real estate. And I see it a lot of times. There are people who are very well capitalized and they don't know the business. And you want to make sure that you take time to learn as much about the business as possible. And on top of that is be open to engaging experts. There are experts, and they cost money because they're experts, that are asset managers, right? That help you through that process of brand selection, management company selection, site selection. Somebody like myself that can help you with the actual acquisition of the process, and just being the architect of the deal for you. There are resources out there for you, and don't be afraid to engage them.
Love it. So if people want to connect with you, how do they do so?
The best, you can connect with me in a myriad of ways. You can find me via Facebook, Omari Head. You can find me, and I guess we could set up a way I could drop my links in on there. On Twitter at Head Hotelier, and that's HEAD HOTELIER. Or you could email me at ohead@paramountLodging.com.